Thank you for your introduction and your kind words. And you can switch to the first slide if you don't mind. Oh, actually, I guess the second slide because I made an introduction one too. I took the class 2 years ago. I was already farming. I started in 2008 where I am now, but a little bit of my background as to how I got to where I am. I grew up in a city in southern Alabama that was probably about the size of Spokane and really didn't have any sort of agricultural background at all, aside from liking to play outside in the woods. But I went to college in Memphis, Tennessee, and I was headed for medical school pretty much my whole life until I was 20. I was pretty driven about it and taking all the classes and stuff, and ended up having a change of heart, and it left me graduating from school with a BS in biology, not being sure what I was going to do next. And my roommate came home from her classes one day and said she had come across a website that looked like me, and it was an internship on a farm in Dayton, Ohio that was run by the National Audubon Society. And they were a teaching farm that had all different kinds of animals there. And there was a milk goat there named Frances, and I fell in love with her and was trying to milk her as often as I could. I would volunteer to do other people's chores so that I could get better at milking Frances. And when I wasn't at work for my 40-hour work week, I was at home reading about farming because I knew so little about it that I started picking up books from Joel Salatin and various other places so that I could start having educated conversations about what I was doing. After I left there, I went to Diane's place to learn how to grow my own food, knowing that I wanted to stick with the goats, and she was able to link me up with someone in eastern Washington that owns Close Basket Farm, where after I left Diane's, I went and worked for Rick and Laura Lee, milking goats and learning how to make cheese a little bit and helping with their educational program as well, which just sort of furthered my interest in what I was doing. And I wasn't sure where I was going next, and a friend of mine was living down in Bend, Oregon, so I decided to move down there. She had a great place to live, and it happened that they actually had 2 goat dairies that were up and running, and I applied to work at both of them and ended up at one called Juniper Grove, where I got the job as a herd manager. We were milking 120 goats, and they made cheese there every day, but I was mostly just responsible for the goats, and I was slightly underqualified when I got there for what I was doing, but I worked really hard and learned quickly and was really grateful for that experience, because with that many goats around all of the time, I started seeing some of the problems that might come up. For example, if the kids are stuck, I got to where I had delivered enough of them there that I was comfortable doing that on my own, and just different things, if someone got a cut or you needed to trim their hooves and things like that. So I stayed there for about 9 months and got some time under my belt, and moved to a place in Chelan, Washington, where I was looking at leasing somewhere, and they had a couple goats, so I came and stayed with them for a little while to see if it was going to work out, and I decided that I wanted to be here and was given an opportunity to be here and jumped on it. So I ended up where I live now, south of Sandpoint by about half of an hour on 20 acres. And in moving here, we put up a dairy building that has a milking parlor in it that holds 2 goats, room in between that's like the storage room, and then the actual cheese room. And I started out with 10 goats in 2008, and right now I think I have like 35 that are kidding right now, and probably about 50 total on the property, but I've slowly grown each year. The Planning for Profit course for me came in pretty much right at the right time. You can go to the next slide. There were three main things that I learned from the class that really hit home for me at the time. The first one was holistic management. The second, the importance of your books and financial work. And the third one for marketing. So on the next slide for holistic management, one of the things after I started the farm that I was really missing was quality time. And I realized after taking the class that I had sort of been in a struggle between quality time, the cash I needed to make to have the farm function, and the giant list of things that I had to do in order to have the farm be running. In the picture, I just got married in September, and that's my husband and his two kids that live with us now. And at the time when I started the farm, I was pretty much on my own, aside from having a dear friend that helped me fairly frequently, and mentors like Diane that I could call for advice. But I had a lot of work to do and not enough time to do it, and the farm wasn't making any money, so I was also working off the farm. And things kind of came to a head right about the time I took the Planning for Profit course. And one of the take-home points I realized was that planning your actual life, your personal life, is also a part of planning your business. Because if you're not also focused on yourself, all you're going to do is work and work and work and burn out. And listening to that lecture about the holistic management kind of made it okay for me to start setting time aside for myself to take an afternoon off and go do something and not worry about the fact that there were other things on the farm that I felt like I should be doing. I was able to start letting go of needing to be away and do something fun. Farming something that I feel like it gets in your blood, and it's something that you just feel like you need to do. Most of the people that I know that farm are extremely passionate about it, and you can get lost in your work if you're not careful. And so I would really consider thinking about balance, and if you have family and kids that are also going to be helping you, sitting down at the table with them too and asking them what they think and how they feel about it, and you know what they'd like to see for farming, so that they also don't end up disliking the farm because they can see how much time it takes from you. And so that was my first important lesson. My second one, you can go to the next slide. This is my dog Dylan, and her face pictures how I feel about bookwork. However, on the next slide, that is literally one of the most important things that you can do for yourself. I highly recommend getting QuickBooks. They talked to us about it in class. I was already using it at the time, and it was well worth the money for me. I think you can get it at Costco the cheapest, I think. But anyways, I put all my receipts and everything into there, and it helps me in multiple ways for knowing what to pay the government for sales tax, but also at the click of a button, I have my profit and loss and my balance sheet. I can look up which customers I've sold things to and how much it was for that year, how much my grain costs for the year, to figure things out like that. QuickBooks for me went hand in hand with having a good accountant, which is part of what Planning for Profit taught me. I felt like I had enough information when I signed up for the class to limp along financially, and after listening to some of the discussions that we had in there about your books and the importance of being able to look at them, I realized how important it was to have an accountant that would sit down and talk to me, to help me with the QuickBooks and to help me figure out what some of the different words mean. I felt like in a lot of ways accounting was sort of like learning a foreign language. I found it really challenging. I hated it, and I have found someone now that can sit down and talk to me about things, and between him and having the things in QuickBooks, things are running much smoothly with less problems. And it also meant that when I was ready to start being able to pay myself this last summer, that I could have him help me with all the stuff with the government that I was supposed to be doing so I wouldn't be in trouble. So don't be afraid to ask questions. I had a lot of questions in the financial one here in the Planning for Profit course, but also for the accountant, or I'll even talk to people that are running a business just about regular things to try and pick their brains and figure out if they've been able to see things that I haven't. People can be really big allies in that. It's also helpful to be able to review your progress. Sometimes you're working so hard you don't always realize how far you've come. The financial stuff, if you've been keeping up with it, you can see what's been working for you and what hasn't been working for you, and pat yourself on the back about the things that you found cheaper than you could before, or recognize that something that you're trying isn't actually providing the financial benefits for how much time you're putting into it and things like that. Cost of goods sold, I put that up there because I feel like a lot of times people don't put their labor cost into the cost of goods sold for how much it ends up costing them to make their product. And that, for me, kind of went along with the quality of life and the holistic management, where rather than just putting my packaging and grain and hay and things like that, I put some time in for myself too, so I was able to keep things going financially.